Okay, we're back. Let's go take a look at the news. All right. Oh yeah, I heard about this just recently. This is just absolutely crazy right here. Stacks of bodies. Horror in Texas as 46 migrants found dead in 18-wheeler. Officials in San Antonio, Texas found 46 bodies in and around an 18-wheeler tractor trailer, and 16 others were taken to the local hospital, is what is presumed to be human trafficking gone wrong. I mean, it is just so sad to see this. Like, this human trafficking thing is just crazy. I just can't. Like, what? More money in your pocket. What is this right here? Newsom to helicopter drop $17 billion in inflation relief stimulus checks as the Federal Reserve attempts to crush aggregate demand through the most aggressive monetary tightening policies in decades to cool red-hot inflation. California Governor Gavin Newsom has come up with the brilliant idea to stoke even more demand through a new round of stimulus checks. Gavin Newsom tweeted, millions of Californians will be receiving up to $1,050 as part of a new middle-class tax rebate. That's more money in your pocket to help you fill your gas tank and put food on the table. That's not inflation relief, that's more inflation. Stop. What are you doing? Seriously, what is this? This is crazy. This is craziness. What are you doing? California is literally trying to commit Sudoku. China shortens travel quarantine and COVID zero shift. This relaxation sends the signal that the economy comes first. It's a sign of importance of the economy at this point. Yeah, their economy is on the brink. It is not good. European sentiment picked up heading into the cash open amid encouraging Chinese COVID headlines. European bourses are firmer as investment picked up. What is this? Like bourses? The fuck? Let's see here. Another food processing plant shutters operations, adding to long list of closures. A top food processing plant will be closing down one of its facilities in Campbell County, Tennessee, adding to the long list of closures over the last year. It's just more signs of like the damage that was done during COVID just catching up. Fact checkers demand YouTube censor competitors because no one is watching their content. This is hilarious. Well, this is awkward. The censorship demand was made during the Global Fact 9, a fact-checking conference organized by the International Fact-Checking Network. As an international network of fact-checking organizations, we monitor how lies spread online, and every day we see that our YouTube is one of the major conduits of online disinformation and misinformation worldwide. This is a significant concern among our global fact-checking community. The IFCN previously wrote in a letter to YouTube. During the conference itself, Angie Drobnik-Holin, editor-in-chief of PolitiFact, complained that the fact-checker groups are struggling because no one is interested in watching their content. It's almost like no one wants to see propaganda. I mean, who wants to actually watch that of their own volition? yes, fact checkers are a ministry of truth. Let's go ahead and give this a bash here.
Wow, turns out fact-checkers aren't neutral bastions of impartiality after all. They're just corrupt mouthpieces for the establishment. Fact-checkers say narrative that contradicts regime isn't happening. Yet another case in point. The Washington Free Beacon reported that as part of a $30 million grant program, the Biden administration is planning to give out free crack pipes to drug addicts in, quote, undeserved communities in the name of, quote, advanced.
That actually ended up happening. That's the funniest part. Like, that's an actual thing. They actually did that. I was living in just outside of San Francisco. I remember them giving out crack smoking kit supplies.
Advancing racial equity. Because it worked out so well in San Francisco, Snopes then conducted a fact check of this report and concluded that it was, quote, mostly false. Not because the Biden administration isn't planning to give out free crack pipes to homeless drug addicts. They are, but because, quote, this was just one of around 20 components of the grant program and far from its most prominent or important one. So
okay, right. So they marked it as false because there were other things that they were doing too. I mean, they were giving them crack pipes, but they were doing other positive things as well. That is the craziest amount of doublethink I have heard this week.
Oh, they are giving out crack pipes to drug addicts, but because that's only one of 20 components of the grant, the claim that they're giving out crack pipes to drug addicts is, quote, mostly false. What? No, it isn't. They are funding crack pipes for drug addicts. That's completely true. You admit it in your own article, but then claim in the same article that it's mostly false. Oh, now the esteemed Snopes has said it's false, then it must be false.
Right? And it's so obvious that these fact checkers are like, who are they to say what is fact and what is not? I mean, it's so obvious that the situation is completely, designed 100% to target people that aren't paying attention, to keep them as basically as docile as possible. That's the only thing I can think of, right? It's propaganda. I hate propaganda. Like, seriously, I don't care what side it comes from. I just hate propaganda.
Even though it's literally not false. So they've turned something into fake news, contributing to the story being buried by social media algorithms. When it's not fake news at all, it's actually happening. Don't forget that Snopes is used by Facebook and others as a neutral, independent fact check.
And that's another thing too, right? That these sites like Facebook, Twitter, right? They use those sites to be able to determine what is and is not allowed on their content, right? So, like on their service. So you had, for example, the laptop story with Hunter Biden, right? And then the fact checkers determined, however they do it, that it was false, and the story got buried. And it turns out it was completely true. It's the same thing, right? Why are they using these people that get to determine what's true and what's not off of, they're not fucking Batman. they're not actually, the world's greatest crime solver, detective, the world's greatest detective. They're not detecting anything. They're pushing an obvious agenda. It's horrible.
Their supposed impartiality is used to bury stories deemed as misinformation. And yet Snopes has got it wrong time and time again. Like when they said it was mostly false that a 1981 Dean Koontz novel predicted coronavirus, despite the story centering around a virus released from a lab called Wuhan 400.
Now that is spooky, right? That is just a little bit eerie.
Snopes was also an early adopter of the notion that the lab leak theory was a debunked conspiracy theory. A narrative circulated by the very same people working in concert with the Wuhan lab to cover their own behind. Snopes routinely fact-checks the Babylon Bee, a satirical publication.
Yeah, so fact-checking the Babylon Bee is hilarious because they're satire. They're just making fun of everything. Like, fact-checking them must mean that they deem their satire based off of enough truth to be a threat, which is... that says a lot about the inner workings of, you know, what their agenda is, that they consider something that's 100% satire. But, you know, it's almost like saying that the information that they're peddling is of the same quality.
Again, in an effort to bury it in social media algorithms. They also fact-check memes that are blatantly not intended to be a portrayal of reality. Like this one showing AOC on The Price is Right. Snopes falsely claimed it was unproven that American Indian activist Nathan Phillips falsely claimed to be a Vietnam veteran. He did falsely claim to be a Vietnam veteran.
He did.
Snopes hires, quote, impartial fact-checkers who have a history of working with far-left news and opinion outlets.
Yep, 100%.
Snopes routinely runs cover for Democrats caught in embarrassing situations. When these entities with a consistent track record of hyper-partisanship, dishonesty, and outright lying are being handed the power to decide what's misinformation and what's credible, that's not fact-checking, that's cronyism. It's agenda-driven.
It is agenda-driven. Yep. Yep, 100%. Yep, 100%. There's no there's no getting away from that one. That is pretty darn factual there. NATO to drastically increase high readiness forces by 650%. Huh. Well, that's not a good sign. Going into this week, NATO summit in Madrid, set to run Tuesday through Thursday, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has announced what surely be taken by Moscow as another huge escalation on the military front. Stoltenberg announced at a Monday press briefing that NATO is drastically beefing up its high readiness forces to well over 300,000. This would be up from current levels of 40,000. That's a 650,000% increase. Wow. That is definitely a middle finger to Russia. France sees nuclear energy output plummet at the worst possible moment. Declining nuclear production could pose a significant problem in the coming months. Well, I hope you all are ready for winter over there. It's going to be a cold one. Suitcase full of drug money. Credit Suisse found criminally guilty in money laundering case tied to cocaine ring. What is this? Another day, another dismal development for the second largest Swiss bank. Oh no, a Swiss bank on top of all of that. On Monday, Credit Suisse Group was convicted of failing to prevent money laundering by a Bulgarian cocaine trafficker and the first ever criminal conviction of a major Swiss bank in the country's history. The verdict, in which a former relationship manager at the bank was also convicted on money laundering charges, was handed down by Switzerland's top criminal court on Monday. Oof, that is painful. The former employee, who prosecutors said regularly accepted suitcases of cash from one of the ring members that went beyond allowed limits, was giving a 20-month suspended sentence. A person from another bank and 2 members of the crime ring were also found guilty of money laundering. Suitcases of cash. I mean, people do some dumb shit for suitcases of cash. Almost 5,000 gang members in Sweden are either first or second generation migrants. It's not enough for many immigrants to come to Sweden for a less developed country and enjoy the benefits. They want excitement and they want to get rich quick. Yeah, no shit. APAC stocks were mixed. DXY lacked direction. 10-year USTs bounced back and crude futures extended on the prior day's gains. Okay. News peak in the 21st century. How to become a model citizen in the new era of domestic warfare. Oof. I'm telling you, man, propaganda is everywhere, and it is terrible. And I don't think enough of, the population understands how to, actually, defend themselves from that. From just a completely mental standpoint. Propaganda is really, really thorough, and I think more people should teach themselves how to be able to see what it is and steal their mind from it. But there's also a lot of dumb out there, so I don't know if that's ever going to happen. The depopulation of Taiwan. Birth rates dropped 23% in 1 year, and it's not COVID. This is a continuation of my post from yesterday, okay? About a massive 13% decline in births in Germany. Such a decline is a 9 sigma event, meaning that it is so unlikely to occur by chance that it would naturally happen as rarely as an asteroid striking Earth. And Taiwan is 23%. Yeah, the birth rates all around the world are going down, and it's kind of a big deal. I think that is another thing with propaganda. It's like people being told that having kids is, not good, and then you also have a lot of kids, young people that don't want to grow up and be adults anymore. It's difficult to find women these days that actually want to settle down and have kids. And then on the other side of that, it's difficult to find, men that are willing to actually do the whole father thing. There is a crazy shortage of fathers. All right, what is this? The first cut might not be the deepest. Even Dutch bank Jim Reed admits that he was slightly surprised at the results revealed by the following chart, lifted from his latest slide book. All right. Median US CPI at the start of 13 hiking cycles. Okay. It shows that the median US CPI was at the start of the 13 hiking cycles in the last 70 years, and also where it was at the first cut after these hiking cycles. Catastrophic risk to stocks and bonds. Fed's balance sheet caused inflation, not low rates. Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. The Fed is about as federal as literally just any bank down the street. Well, this is interesting. A dire warning for Democrats. Over 1 million voters switched to GOP over the last year. The Republican Party has been picking up support over the past year as more than 1 million voters across 43 states switched to the GOP, according to voter registration data. More than 1 million voters across 43 states have switched to the Republican Party over the last year, according to the voter registration data analyzed by the Associated Press. The previous unreported numbers reflect a phenomenon that is playing out in virtually every region of the country. Maybe it's because it was really obvious that you stole an election. I don't know. Maybe that is enough to piss some people off. No idea, but it seems like that might be what it is. Alright, well, that is the top news stories of our Monday morning. Tomorrow I'll try to go over some more news then, and for now, yeah, we can go ahead and just say yeah, let's call it.